This is The Fight Guys. I am Peter Kahn. Today's Monday, June 15th, and Top Rank and ESPN have two events this week. Tuesday, tomorrow night, June 16th, and on Thursday, June 18th. Boxing is back in action. Tomorrow night's card has 5 fights, while Thursday has 6 fights. But before that, we are powered by Fight TV and presented by Bet Online, where we are going to break down some of the odds for some of these fights. And if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, please make sure to do so. Hit that subscribe button, check for the notifications, and go to The Fight Guys. Got a ton of video, pumping out content every day. But let's get to the matter at hand. Tomorrow night in Las Vegas, like I said, Top Rank has 5 fights on the card with Josh Greer headlining. And that card is Josh Greer versus Mike Plania, Giovani Santillan against Antonio DeMarco, Nikoloz Sekhniashvili versus Isiah Jones, Bobirzhan Mominov against Krael, and Hector Perez versus Juan Torres. So while we're going to break down these fights, I will let you know in advance that I'm going to be breaking down the first 4 fights out of the 5 on tomorrow night's card, and then I'm going to be doing 3 of the fights on June 18th, which feature former world champion Jose Pedraza against Mikkel LesPierre, Gabriel Flores Jr., rising undefeated star, against Josec Ruiz, prospect David Kaminsky against Clay Collard. It's going to be an interesting fight. And those are the 3 that I'm going to focus on that show. So right out of the gates, let's just talk about, let's go from the bottom up. Let's start with Bobirzhan Mominov against Cameron Krael. It's an 8-rounder. Now, while I want to tell you that this is going to be an excellent fight, an excellent matchup, I will say this. Krael's 17-15. Look, Mominov is 10-0, 8 KOs. He's obviously coming in here as the A side. I don't suspect Cameron Krael getting out of this. He's only been knocked out, though, 1 time in his 15 losses. So they might be looking for Mominov to be able to get some rounds here. It's a pretty easy pick here. We're going to go with Mominov. I am going to go with the KO. I think this will be the second time that Krael, and I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but gets stopped. So moving right along, that is going to bring us to what would be the 3rd fight on the card, and an interesting matchup for me. Here's the disclaimer. I am the manager of Nikoloz Sekhniashvili, who's fighting Isiah Jones. Sekhniashvili is 5-0 with 4 KOs. He is from Georgia, the country of Georgia. Isiah Jones is from Detroit. Jones is 8-1 with 3 KOs. And I have to tell you, we took this fight because in Sekhniashvili's 6th fight, this is a step up. I would say this is a 50-50 fight. Jones is coming to box, and Sekhniashvili is coming to show his power. So this is a 6-round fight, so I would expect a lot of action early, while Jones fights out of the Kronk Gym, being trained by Sugar Hill Stewart, obviously considered a mid to high level prospect. Sekhniashvili is in South Florida with trainer Javier Centeno at Sweatbox Boxing. And it's just going to be a classic matchup of whoever can impose their style. If Jones can find a way to avoid Sekhniashvili's power, then he's going to have an opportunity to win a decision. But if Sekhniashvili is able to cut off that ring and use his power, then this fight could be ending in KO. My bias prediction here is Nikoloz Sekhniashvili by knockout victory. I'd like to say it's going to come early, but I'll take it whenever it comes. But that is my pick, and that should be an entertaining fight. So moving up here to the or the semi, however you want to call it, on this card. It's a good fight here. You have Giovani Santillan, who is 25-0, 15 KOs out of California. And he is fighting Antonio DeMarco, veteran, who's 33-8 with 24 KOs. So Santillan was recently signed by Top Rank. He was fighting with Thompson Boxing. I think they have a co-promotional deal. But he's coming in here. His first fight with Top Rank, coming off of a impressive KO victory in Florida, I believe. Or no, actually it was in California. And he is coming in as the favorite in this fight. In fact, going to the odds, BetOnline has Santillan at -500. So that means bet 500 to win 100 to DeMarco's +350, which puts DeMarco at the underdog, where you bet 100 to win 350. Here's what's interesting about this fight. So, look, Santillan hasn't really faced any top opposition yet. You know, he'd be considered a high-level prospect. Being able to beat somebody like DeMarco, who at this point has become a gatekeeper. They're both southpaws, by the way, and they're both, you know, physically very similar. But, you know, look, DeMarco, he has 8 losses. He's been stopped twice. His last 2 fights, he's lost unanimous decisions to Jamal James and the late Maxim Dadashev. He has the experience, but he's been through a lot of fights. And I think that Top Rank is looking to test Santillan in this fight to see really what he has. This is his step up. He is fighting a crafty veteran. But like I said, at this point, DeMarco is a gatekeeper. Before his last 2 losses, he had a win against Eddie Ramirez and Luis Solis. But before that, he had lost to Omar Figueroa, Rancis Barthelemy, and Jesse Vargas. So DeMarco's clearly been in with the better talent. And this fight is at welterweight, by the way, if I did not mention that. And the previous fight with Sekhniashvili and Jones is in the middleweight division. So, you know, coming back to this fight, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, this is going to be an opportunity for Santillan to show that he belongs to be considered as a high-level prospect. Already has those 25 wins under his belt, but by far, DeMarco is going to be the big test for him. My pick here is simple. I'm going with Giovani Santillan. He's the younger fighter. He's 28 years old. DeMarco's 34 years old. DeMarco's just been through a lot of wear and tear. 241 rounds in the ring to 105 for Santillan. Look, I just see Santillan coming out boxing. And I see DeMarco not really posing a threat. I think that once Santillan figures out DeMarco, I think it's just he's going to go en route to a 10-round decision. So I wouldn't recommend with -500 placing a bet on this fight. There's not a lot of line value there. But if you want to, the pick is on Santillan. So this leads us to the main event. And the main event on Tuesday features a world title contender in Josh Greer Jr., who's 22-1 with 12 KOs, who, you know, in the bantamweight division, he's been making some noise over the past couple of years. His lone loss, interestingly enough, was back in, when was it? Back in, let me see, in 2015. So he hasn't lost in 5 years. He's definitely looking to make a statement here en route to getting his first world title shot. I was at the Antonio Nieves fight where Greer won a unanimous decision. However, I have to tell you, this was back in October 26th of 2019 in Reno. This fight was close. This was 95-94 on 2 cards, 96-93 on the other card. Greer is very fast, right? His assets are his speed. He has power, but Antonio Nieves was able to make it complicated. And there was one point where he seemed to have had Greer hurt, but he just didn't have the conditioning or the power to really finish the job. Look, I'm going back to the odds, okay? If you are going to bet, right, Josh Greer is a minus 360 favorite to Plania being a plus 250 underdog. So clearly there could be some line value here. I mean, it's not the greatest, but look, Plania has the right record. He's 23-1. His lone loss as well was back in 18 to Juan Carlos Payano in Hollywood, Florida at the Hard Rock. But, you know, I don't suspect him being the guy that's going to upset Greer on Tuesday night. I would say that although he's plus 250 and there's some value there as an underdog, I see Greer coming out wanting to make a statement. He's had a lot of time off, like I said, since October. I see him coming in here and wanting to be the first person to stop Plania, who is from the Philippines. But I'm going with Greer at that minus 360, according to BetOnline. And I think, you know, those are your two best bets on the evening. And in fact, those are the only two fights that are on the board for sports bettors tomorrow night. So we're looking at Giovani Santillan at minus 500 to defeat Antonio DeMarco. And we're looking at Josh Greer Jr. to defeat Mike Plania at minus 360. And so, look, right now these cards, in my opinion, have been great. You know, boxing has been back now for 2 shows. Top Rank really stepping up, making it happen. The third show being tomorrow night. And I see that the competitive nature of the fights is going to begin to increase. And I think also the fans and viewers are going to get used to this concept, at least for a while, of no fans. And I think that just having that programming and the ability to watch these live fights, and some of these are really good matchups. So, you know, moving on to Thursday, June 18th, the main event on that card, Jose Pedraza versus Mikkel LesPierre. That's a 10-round fight, junior welterweights. Then you have Gabriel Flores Jr. versus Josec Ruiz. That's 10 rounds in the lightweight division. Then you have David Kaminsky versus Clay Collard, 6 rounds in the super middleweight division. And we're going to pretty much cap it off over there. So going there, let's just start. We'll start from the bottom up on that one. So David Kaminsky, 6-0. He is a top-ranked fighter. Consider him a mid-level prospect. He's only 19 years old, from Israel, lives in California. I've seen him fight before. And look, Top Rank is testing him. I mean, this fight is a clear test in his 7th fight. He's fighting a guy that has been known to make some upsets here. Clay Collard is not going to be a walk in the park for David Kaminsky. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, in February, we saw Collard come in and KO Raymond Guajardo in the 2nd round. Before that, he beat Kushan Toller. And, you know, look, Collard lost to one of my clients, Quentin Randall, back in 2019. But Collard's coming to fight. He's coming to pull the upset. He's going to come forward. I don't suspect Kaminsky's southpaw stance is going to bother Collard. I think that this is going to be an opportunity for Kaminsky to show that he belongs, you know, that he deserves the title of you know, high-level prospect to potential contender. I feel that this is going to be an exciting fight. Either Kaminsky is going to show up and step up and prove that he can back up, you know, who he feels he is. But I think Clay Collard is going to come in here and upset Kaminsky. I think Clay Collard's coming to fight. I think he's going to make things a little difficult for Kaminsky. And I think we might find him pulling the upset. So for me, that's going to be my upset pick on that card on Thursday. So I'm picking Clay Collard to beat David Kaminsky. And that fight is at super middleweight. So moving up into the semi co-feature, however you want to call it, on Thursday, you have Gabriel Flores Jr. against Josec Ruiz. So, I mean, look, Gabe Flores Jr. was the youngest fighter ever to sign with Top Rank before another one of my clients, Xander Zayas, did it last year. Look, he is 17-0, only 6 KOs. He's 20 years old. But Gabriel Flores has been on a slow and steady climb. Excellent boxer, excellent skill set, excellent ring generalship, excellent ring IQ. He's displayed that he's able to make adjustments. He doesn't lack confidence. His father, Gabriel Flores Sr., really, they have a great chemistry. I know them, and I just know that, Flores is, continuing to look to make a name for himself. Now, I know that they're fighting as lightweights, and it's probably because it's a little bit of a catchweight. I don't suspect Flores is moving up to 135. I would suspect that he's still going to pursue a world title opportunity at 130 pounds. However, this particular fight is taking place in the lightweight division, and he is fighting, like I said, Josec Ruiz, 21-2, 14 KOs from Honduras. And look, I think that this is just another test for Gabriel Flores to come out and show his skills on television. This is a scheduled 10-round fight. So I would suspect really to see Gabriel Flores just outbox, to just outbox Josec Ruiz for 10 rounds. I don't know if we're going to get a stoppage, but I would tell you that right now, if you want to look at the odds according to BetOnline, once again, Flores is the biggest favorite of the week at minus 4,131. So if you have $4,131 you want to put down in order to win 100, to Ruiz at plus $1,631, basically as the underdog. I mean, there's zero line value here. So if you're going to bet on this fight, my recommendation is pass. Flores is going to come out and outbox Ruiz en route to what I feel will be an easy 10-round decision. And that brings us to the main event for Thursday, which features former world champion Jose Pedraza against Mikkel LesPierre. Pedraza, who's 26-3, the only time being stopped was against Gervonta Davis when he lost his super featherweight title back in 2017. Since then, Pedraza, came off of 3 wins, then got his opportunity against Lomachenko, in which he was able to go 12 rounds, lost a decision, and then most recently he lost to Jose Zepeda in his most recent fight in 2019 in April, or that was in September. Lost a 10-round decision, unanimous decision. That was in Las Vegas. Here's the interesting thing. I was at the Lozada fight, which was before that Zepeda fight that he lost. So if you really look at this, Pedraza lost to Lomachenko. He beat Lozada, and then he lost to Zepeda in a decision. But here's the thing: he TKO'd Lozada in in the 9th round. And look, I mean, on the cards, I guess it was close. One had it a draw going into that round, but one had it, you know, 1 round up for Pedraza, but he didn't look so great. Didn't have his legs under him. I mean, I was inside the corral at ringside for that, and he just seemed off. Didn't seem like himself. Then he comes back and loses to Zepeda. You know, now he's fighting LesPierre, and if you look at the odds according to Bet Online, Pedraza is a minus 950 favorite here. Basically bet $950 to win 100. I don't suspect that LesPierre is going to give Pedraza. I don't see him coming in here and pulling an upset. If you look at his record, he has a great record, 22-1. But if you really look at the level of opposition, I mean, he did lose unanimous decision to Maurice Hooker back in 2019. But other than that, there's really nothing that you could compare to the level of opposition that Pedraza has fought. So while the record's great, you know, the odds makers have this one right. They have LesPierre as a plus 610 underdog, which would mean bet 100 to win $610. So Pedraza winning that fight, I suspect that fight will go the distance, and he will win a decision. So just to recap, on Tuesday, June 16th, tomorrow night in Las Vegas, I have Josh Greer defeating Mike Plania, scheduled for 10 rounds. I think we're going to want to. I think Greer's going to want to come in here and is going to be looking for the KO victory. Giovani Santillan versus Antonio DeMarco, scheduled 10 rounds. I do see that one going the distance, and I see Santillan winning that fight. Nikoloz Sekhniashvili versus Isiah Jones, 6 rounds at middleweight, or actually super middleweight. It was at a 161 max. Both guys weighed in actually under 160 pounds. I see that fight ending with Sekhniashvili coming out on top. Because I manage him, I'd like to say preferably by KO, but I do see Sekhniashvili defeating Jones. And Mominov having no trouble with Cameron Krael, whether it goes the full 8 rounds or not. The 10-0 Mominov is going to win that fight. Then moving on to Thursday, June 18th, Jose Pedraza defeating Mikkel LesPierre. That's a 10-round fight. I see that going the distance. Gabriel Flores Jr. versus Josec Ruiz. See Flores winning a 10-round decision as well. David Kaminsky versus Clay Collard in a 6-round fight. I see this being an interesting fight. I see a lot of action early, and I'm picking Collard in the upset. So whatever you plan on doing with the odds that we talked about, just bet responsibly. And don't forget to subscribe to The Fight Guys. Please subscribe if you're watching us on Fight TV. Go to YouTube, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so. Get the alerts. We cover everything from boxing to all the UFC, professional wrestling, anything that has to do with fighting. And we will be breaking down these fights every Tuesday, Thursday. My partner, Brian Mazique, will be providing all of his previews, picks, and breakdowns of every UFC fight. So as always, we appreciate you watching and look forward to seeing you next time.